Welcome to the MS&Me Radio Network, a division of the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network. The following program broadcast is an original creation by the broadcast entity. Discussion within the following broadcast should be used for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultation. Before considering application of any broadcast content in the following program, please consult your healthcare provider. If you feel you are having a medical emergency, please contact your local health services for immediate assistance. MS&Me Media and the Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network do not guarantee or warrant the accuracy of information in the broadcast to follow. The Multiple Sclerosis Global Support Network provisions broadcast services to program hosts. Information discussed in the broadcast does not necessarily reflect the views, opinions, or goals of the network and are solely those of the show broadcast host. Should you wish to host a broadcast, please visit our website at msmemedia.com and submit a request to become a program host. We thank you for listening to the MS&Me Radio Network. Enjoy the show.
Hey everybody, this is Roxanne checking in. For those of you who haven't seen my videos, I have multiple sclerosis, and I have had multiple sclerosis for 10 years, and it is an uphill battle no matter how two ways you look at it. But I spend time on these videos talking about my MS, but I more or less try to spend time talking about moments I've had that give me encouragement. And that's what I want to be for people. I don't want to be a downer. I don't want to be a crybaby, because my family calls it hanging lip when you're throwing a fit and you have your bottom lip hanging down. But I feel driven to share a story about a fundraiser I did, and in the moments I got to see God move. And like I said, I've done a ton of drugs, as far as, not drugs, but like I've done a ton of medications to work on treating my MS, and I try any trial that could work. So I had one, and it was called the CCSVI treatment. And basically the school of thought is that because your veins are too narrow, or the stenosis in your veins, you are getting a backflow of iron, and it has an adverse effect on multiple sclerosis, if not being the core reason it's showing up in the first place. So I thought about it. I was like, why not, dude? I've already got all this other stuff going on, and I got this treatment that I'm doing, medications I'm doing, and if I can be well, I'm going to do it, you know? I think it's I have to, the TV just turned back on. Anyways. That was unexpected. If it's not that, it's going to be my dogs running back and forth, but I'm not going to cut it. So I threw it out there at God. I said, hey man, if you're going to do this, let's do it. If you're not, close the doors. And would you believe, it almost started moving immediately. I made a conversation a little bit with, or had a conversation a little bit with Jacob's, my husband's ex-boss, and at the time boss. And she was amazing. Her name's Kathy, probably one of the most extraordinary, caring people I've ever met in my entire life. And I thank God every day I did. And that lady, she was so inspiring and so moving. She's such a fighter. And I told her about it, and she's like, well, let's do it. And I can't tell you, this lady is so plugged in, it's ridiculous. Like, the minute she decided it was going to happen, people just started pouring in and doing these fundraisers and making these moments. And it was a life-changing situation. I'd never seen people move like this. And in these moments, you see how grateful she is, but also how encouraging she is. And she wasn't well on her own. Like, she had her own situations going on. So I wouldn't think she had time to deal with little old me. But I'm telling you, it was crazy. Like, it was like fundraiser after fundraiser, and people were just showing up. And I would say a majority of them, to begin with, were her people. And then my people started rolling in, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was crazy. So we got to a point where we made about 4,000, and we had to come up with almost 15 for the treatment and for the flights back and forth and for food and whatever you can think of. And at that point, we're at 4,000, and we started seeing a lull in fundraising. And at that same time, we were getting some negative input on how the treatment was working on other people, if it had adverse effects. And in talking to Kathy tells me, she's like, I don't want to do anything that's going to hurt you. And I said, I don't want you to do anything that's going to hurt me. And it was so weird because we spent the whole week just thinking about it and throwing it back and forth and deciding if it is too iffy, we could allocate it on something else for the MS. And it was crazy, but we made it through the week and we weren't sure what we were going to do. But would you believe, come to find out, that very same week, Kathy's amazing older sister was on a flight back from a business trip, and God saw fit to sit her next to a gentleman on his way back from his CCSVI treatment with nothing but amazing, amazing things to say about it. And he told her, he says, hey, this girl is young. You should have her do this. She needs to try it. And he's like, as a matter of fact, I went out for me because I have MS, but my daughter has MS as well. And I wanted to make sure it was safe. And I'm telling you, it blew our minds. Just think about the math and the chances of somebody sitting next to the lady who needed to hear it. So the lady that needed to hear it at home would hear it. And so fundraising blew up. We told the story to everybody because it was a fact. It's what happened. God was moving. And it broke my heart in an amazing way, like in a good way. I'm like, oh God, this is so much love. I can't stand it. And I'm telling you, we made another probably $5,000 after that. And it was insane. And there were moments where we weren't sure still. We were kind of thinking, we didn't know. And we'd hear regular crazy input. But we were just going to do it because we'd already raised so much money for it. But then there was this other kind of lull in the fundraising, and we weren't sure if people were still on board or people were going to try and help make stuff happen, because I wasn't going to do it on my own. I couldn't. I didn't have the ability. And crazy thing happened. My landlord comes to my house to do some plumbing work. And she's telling me, she's like, would you, my niece just went out to get this treatment. And she was talking about the CCSVI treatment. And I go, what? That's crazy. And she was like, you know what? You should call her because she will tell you some amazing things. And I said, okay, I'm going to call a perfect stranger and like I did before and see what happens. But I did it. It might have taken me a week to build up the guts to do it. So in calling her, she tells me, you know what? I didn't realize it was something that could work. My dad went out first. And then I went out because, he wanted to make sure it was safe. So the story was sounding very familiar but backwards. And I had called the gentleman. His name was Dale. He was a very nice man. He let me know about his daughter. And it was crazy because I was talking to her. I was like, what's your dad's name? She says, Dale. And I says, Dale so-and-so? And she goes, oh my God. And I say, oh my God, we were talking about the same person. The guy on the airplane was the father of my landlord's niece. Holy Ghost bumps, chills, whatever you want to call it, all over my body. God was moving in every avenue of my life. What are the chances that these two people were going to interact I can't even begin to understand it. But what that meant to everybody else, that this is what the plan was. Roxanne's probably getting healed. She's going to do some cartwheels. Or this is what was going on in my head. Maybe not in everybody else's, but I really wanted to do cartwheels. So we got all the money raised, and I went out, and I got the treatment. And it's the whole school of thought is that, the narrowing of the veins. So they put a balloon in there to try to blow it up a little bit. And then the vein should, move, all the iron deposits should go through correctly and it won't be backed up or anything. So I had hot flashes for like a week because obviously I was having some kind of stenosis or narrowing of the veins. And it was crazy because I was prepared. I was like, oh man, I'm doing cartwheels. It's over. Hey, let's go. We're going to go do it right now. Granted, I might have to do it next to an urgent care to start out, but this is happening. And it was funny because in the end of it, it didn't work out as well as it did for those two people. And it took me a minute, a few bottles of wine to come to terms with it. But then I look back and I look at the different people that showed up to this fundraiser. There were people from my high school, people who were, non-believers, believers, people who believed in different belief systems. And that lady who donated, the 2 weeks of hotel stay out in New York because she worked for hotels and she was Muslim and she was on board. And it was like everyone in my life was pulling together, and people who weren't in my life were making it happen too. And I don't know how, I don't know the way it was supposed to work, but it sure as heck did. So in the moment I was having a pity party that I wasn't getting healed, but I got to see God move. There's no doubt in my mind that me and him have a relationship. It's in my gut, it's in my heart, it's in my soul. And it's never what you think it's going to be. It's not your plan. But you always have to have an attitude of gratitude. Whatever you believe in God, believe in he or she God, or you believe in, the creator, you believe in nothing. It all boils down to love. And that's what I tell people when they ask me, so what do you think about this? And they want to get into these debates about what God is for me or what it is for them. And I just tell them, I know one thing. God is love. And I am going to have an attitude of gratitude for every morning I wake up with air in my lungs, whether you believe in it or not. And I got to see God move. So here we are at the end of this story, but it was amazing, it was good, and it's so very true. But let's work on our attitude of gratitude. And remember the blessings you get and the blessings that you have an opportunity to give. And don't forget how much love there is to give. Anyways, I want to say thank you, and I hope you guys enjoyed this, and let me know. Please subscribe or give me a comment or share it, whatever it is you people do out in the space world. So anyways, thank you. Hi everybody, it's Roxanne checking in. I did a video most recently talking about this young man named Jose and the sheer, coincidence / God moment it was to meet him and to be of service to him. And if you're curious, go ahead and check out my last video. I do a lot of talking about, how kind of God moved in my life, but also spending time looking at these moments and recognizing them when you see them. And it's not always easy because we're pretty stuck in our heads when we have MS. But on a different note, I talked about a fundraiser that I did and how amazing it was to see how everything kind of fell together so beautifully and how people were just fantastic. And for little old me, like I said before, I only had to show up and be willing to take it all in and to be any kind of person I needed to be to make that stuff happen. And I decided sometime after all of those amazing situations happened to move to New Hampshire. And it was because all of my husband's family was in New Hampshire, and we spent a whole heck of a lot of time with my people. And the truth is this, is that, as an MSer, and you have a support system in a husband or in a significant other, it's really hard to not make everything about you.
because we're on it every day. We think about these things every day, and we want people to understand how horrible it is sometimes or how wonderful it is, depending on the day. But then also, when I went out there, I was like, oh my goodness, there is nothing out there. There are no support services that I'm familiar with because I'm from Colorado. And really, Denver, Colorado is the epicenter, I swear, of MS services, MS programs, MS, it really is the place you want to go to get the right neurologists and things like that. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to get out there, but I have to go out in faith. And it was interesting because I went out there, and at first it was a little weird, hit or miss, but I ran into an amazing physical therapy person, and through Merrick Spine Center, it was Dr. Merrick, and then his most amazing physical therapist, Jessie, and she was just so sweet and so progressive. And when she wasn't there, she was like a martial arts expert and whatever else, and she didn't mind coming and kicking my butt, and I didn't mind it either, because I feel like my fight or flight mechanism really pulls out some serious energy and moments where you wouldn't expect them. So anyways, I went there and I started doing all these kind of new physical therapy type things, and I got a new neurologist, and she was amazing. And I can believe how plugged in she was and how excited she was to be a part of my plan. And I told her, I said, I've had MS for a while. I have MS genetic monster. And I also have done the CCSVI treatment that didn't work well for me. But now I want to try the stem cell transplant in Chicago. And look it up online. You can find something on YouTube, and it's Dr. Burt. And it's I think it's at the Memorial Hospital out in Chicago. And it was so crazy because she was like, you know what, Roxanne? You've been through it, and you know what your body does, so let's try. And she was on board, and it wasn't something that was approved. It was a trial basis, and I can't even imagine how that could be scary for somebody in the medical field to just say, hey, let's go do it. And honestly, before I did it, I had a moment when I had to stop taking all my medications so I could have a fresh start with the Chicago stem cell thing. So I had 4 months off of Tysabri. And oh my goodness, it was scary because I didn't realize how scary it was until I got about 3 months in. And my face started having this it looked like I had some kind of a stroke or something. My face started drooping, and like I drink water and it just fall out the side of my mouth and stuff. And it was like, that's not good. And honestly, it sounded like I was drunk, and I was having a real hard time articulating. And if you haven't gathered that since I've been talking to you guys, this is kind of a pretty important part of my person. So she was amazing. She said, you know what, you're going to go do this trial. Why don't you do some plasmapheresis? And that was just to get my body back in gear without having to add any new medications. And look it up, Google it, ask your doctor. And it's amazing. Like I'm telling you, really put me back to a comfortable baseline. And then I said, okay, well, shoot, I have to raise some money to go do this. And I told my physical therapist about this, and I told them about my experiences that I'd had with the center and some of the people I've ran into. And I even told them the story about the guy on the airplane and the landlord's niece. And if you're curious, watch the previous video. But I'm telling you, this physical therapist / chiropractor, Dr. Merrick, he just was so helpful. He bought so many gift cards to raffle off, and I didn't know anybody out there, but they really made it happen. There was a massage therapist that was doing $5 chair massages, and it was just amazing. And these were all people I didn't know exactly. I knew them, but I hadn't known them for life like I did some of the people in Colorado. But they were so excited to be a part of my journey. I can't deny that was it. I want to say it's fate, but I feel like people get plugged in to my crazy, and God's, crazy, and it's all very crazy and exciting. But anyways, so, and the cool thing was this, I had to raise, a couple thousand, probably about 5,000, so I could survive out in Chicago for 2 months, and my husband as well. And you're thinking about paying for housing and whatever else, and we didn't have enough money by the end of it, but we were supposed to get out there in December, and we just went. We just went for it. We didn't have enough money. We didn't have everything together. But so how the stem cell stuff works, it's like this thing where they go in and they kill your immune system with insane amount of chemo, and because you lose your hair and all these other things, and it's not a very, dude, I got to experience menopause, and I'm not looking forward to it when I get there for real, because that's what happens when you do this chemo. And then what they do is they give you this stuff that helps you generate brand new clean stem cells from your bone marrow, and they don't have to go in physically to do it. It'll pull it out into your bloodstream. And then they go and use one of these machines similar to the plasmapheresis machine, and they pull it all out, and then they keep it. And then they give you a bunch more chemo to make sure all of your MS signals and whatever part of your immune system that says MS is a thing, they try to get rid of it. And then they give you the stem cells back, and they call it your birthday because you get a brand new chance with a clean whistle, a clean plate. It's a whole thing. It's crazy. And I had this moment where I thought, oh my gosh, when I get that back, I'm going to hear some God noises, and it's going to be beautiful. But stem cells. But no, that is not what happened. I was so sick from the chemo, and they were putting the stuff in, and I'm like, okay, this is terrific. Thank you. And I kind of harped on the floor, and it totally took the romance out of getting my stem cells in the birthday of brand new stem cells. But that's how my life works. I always get like a funny turn on everything, or a crazy turn where you can be like, really? I don't want to puke on the help. That's horrible. But I lost all my hair, but I had 2 full years of no disease modifying drugs. And it was amazing. So check this out. I reach out to a church in Chicago because going out and not knowing anybody is crazy. You don't know where you're going to go, where you're going to start, how you're going to make it happen. And when I went and did my assessment, they let me know that I was getting the compassionate care program, which means even though it was a study or it was a trial, I was going to get the actual stem cell treatment, which was really exciting. And I had to pay for a room that was pretty cheap. It was like $80 a night, but it was through the hospital. And it was so awesome because they called me and they said, by the end of the week, you're going to qualify for the free room for the whole time of your stay at this hotel. And we didn't have enough money. We didn't have the resources to make it through those 2 months. You're talking about food, you're talking about gas, you're talking about parking, you're talking about any little thing that a person might need. And it was kind of crazy because all of it kind of came together so beautifully. So I was getting the treatment for sure. I was getting this free room. It was called a patient first room through Chicago hospital. But it was insane because I had connected with this church that I mentioned before because I was trying to get a community of people so I wasn't out there in space. And they decided they wanted to meet with me and my husband because they want to know who you are and when you're asking for help, if what the angle is. And these 2 beautiful women showed up, and they were so kind and so sweet. At Chick-fil-A, I think they wanted to go in a public place to make sure that we weren't crazy, which was awesome. But then they invited us to visit their church, which was really great. And it was crazy because it was in a big old elementary school. And the way their church works, they was like, we have church wherever. It's wherever we fit, we go there. And the people go. And that's how it works. And it was so amazing. And so it was nuts because when we went to church, Would you believe they handed us a check for $1,000? We went out on faith, in faith. And we didn't have enough money. We didn't know how we were going to do it. We just knew that I needed help. And all these pieces came together. And I can't deny it. I can't. What do you say? You say, hey, what the heck? I was going to probably be cold and broke and a little sick from the treatment. And my poor husband, he didn't get to stay with me in the hospital, so he had to pay for a hotel stay while he was out. But since we got the free room, it made everything so much easier. By the way, Dr. Bird is amazing. Look him up on YouTube so you can get an idea of how this stem cell transplant works. So what I'm saying is this. These beautiful people in New Hampshire, including my physical therapist and my new neurologist, and then I go to Chicago where I know nobody, but then this beautiful church says, hey, we're going to go ahead and give you $1,000 to survive while you're out here. Also, we end up in the free room, and it's probably the most amazing thing. But here's the other thing. We had parked at the hospital, and we thought for sure we were going to owe our butts because we were parking in that place for 60 days. And, have you ever parked in a, parking space where you have to pay some money? We thought we were going to have to shell out some real cash by the end of it. And would you believe when we left, they just said, hey, it's $7. We had enough money to get everything we needed while we were out there. We had connections we needed while we were out there. We ended up in the places where we can afford things rather than suffering the whole time. It can't be denied. So, anyways, my point is this. If you go out in faith sometimes, I feel like all the time, but it doesn't always feel like it goes the way that we want, you'll be amazed to see how the pieces come together. And honestly, the stem cell treatment worked for 2 years, and then it stopped working. And like I said, with the genetic marker and all this other crazy stuff, I'm kind of used to it. And it was a little disappointing, but another opportunity for me to see God move. And without a doubt. So anyways, everybody just, try to have, even though life is hard with us, try to have an attitude of gratitude, all those little things, but also to open your eyes to see these blessings that we don't pay attention all the time. And also, even if you don't have much, seize an opportunity to bless somebody. And like that, I'm a listener. That's my blessing to people. I'm like, I don't got any money, I don't got any health, but if I can listen to you and give you some positive feedback and help you have a sounding board or something, okay, I can do that. I can bless you with that. So, okay, guys, I'll catch you on the flip. And I look forward to the next time to bug you. Okay.